Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Bowling University studio from the International Bowling Campus here in Arlington, Texas. This is the Profit Break. If you're joining us for the first time, we're glad you're here. Give us 15 minutes, and you're going to be well on your way to improving yourself and your profitability. Now, AI seems to be everywhere we turn today. While politicians argue over how to regulate it and tech companies continue racing for AI dominance, as an operator or manager of a small business, what does it all mean to us today? You're trying to grow revenues while maintaining costs and providing a great guest experience for those in your community. It's a fair question. What role should AI even play in your business? Good news, on today's show, we're going to talk with someone that can help us unpack all of this. Now, John Lakefish is an award-winning marketing and branding expert with over 20 years experience and has an MBA from the Foster School of Business at the University of Washington. He and his team help brands create awareness, increase trial, and make smart marketing decisions while embracing AI for businesses just like yours. Now, not to mention, when John was much younger, he was a member of his junior bowling league in Medford, Oregon. He bowled at the former Roxy Ann Lanes, and he is often credited as a champion there in his weekly competitions. John, pleasure to meet you. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Bart. I appreciate you having me on today. This is exciting.
Yeah. Now, we are looking forward to having you join us at our Bowl Expo in Denver. You're going to be joining us for the first time, so folks are just meeting you. So before we jump into our topic, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your the company you're with?
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story. So I was born and raised in Medford, Oregon, as you mentioned at the beginning. Did my undergraduate work at Oregon, graduate school at UW up in Seattle. And then I spent the next 22 years as a marketing lead for some of the biggest brands in America, including Outback Steakhouse and Bonefish Grill. They had about 50 restaurants on the West Coast that I oversaw. And then I was with the hottest restaurant company in America called Matador for a little while. And then before I started my own company about 2 years ago, I was with one of the biggest community developers on the West Coast. We're building a community that was going to create 6,000 brand new homes in a small town outside Seattle called Black Diamond. And then, like I said, about 2 years ago, I decided it was time to branch off on my own and kind of start my own marketing and branding firm, which allowed me the passion to kind of go out and represent multiple businesses and allow businesses of all sizes to grow and reach their full potential. My whole career prior to working with the Oak Point community, building 6,000 homes, was focused on helping small businesses grow, right? So when I was with the Outback Steakhouse and Bonefish Grill group, every single restaurant was privately owned, had a local managing partner, and we did everything we could in those communities to help brand that company as kind of the best community partner that they could find in the city in which they operate. And so being able to branch off on my own 2 years ago was exciting and fascinating. And then AI launched with ChatGPT in November of 2022, and off to the races from there.
Well, great. Well, thank you for that, and we're excited about having you with us again. So let's jump into our topic. You mentioned AI. What prompted you to dive into AI so quickly?
So it's a kind of a funny story. So on November 30th of 2022, my son, who happened to be taking classes at a local game programming university called DigiPen, came home, and he walked in and said, "Hey, Dad, my professor introduced me to something called ChatGPT today." And I said, "That's interesting. I've heard of it, but I didn't really know it had launched. I didn't know much about it." And he said, "Well, it's designed to kind of help coders, where you can take code that you've written and you can pop it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT can help you evaluate the code, make sure there aren't any bugs in the code. They can rewrite the code for you. Just make sure that it's correct." And so I said, "Well, hey, I'd like to check it out. Let me try it." So I hopped on to ChatGPT at that point, which was the initial launch. There really wasn't a membership fee. And my mind instantly went to, wow, this is much more than just a platform for coders to help them with writing code for video games. This, from my perspective as a marketing and branding guy for 20 years, this could change everything we know about branding and marketing. And as the next 18 months unfolded, it was evidently clear to me and to my clients that AI could increase the effectiveness of a brand's messaging. It could increase the frequency that a brand is able to share its messaging. At the same time, it can decrease the costs that are associated with it, because it can help you create content from a marketing and branding perspective like you've never seen before. And it can always be on brand and on voice for your organization. And it can learn about what's been the most effective messaging that you've done. And you can ask it to make modifications to the most effective branding you've done to make sure that it continues to improve upon itself over time. And so that was the aha moment for me where I said, I'm all in. This is going to revolutionize the marketing and branding arena. It's going to eliminate the need for some of these ridiculously expensive ad agencies that if you're in the area of branding and marketing, you know that if you try to hire an ad agency to do something for you, they're going to charge you so much money to do a TV commercial or to do a website design or to do content creation. And with AI, you can do almost all of it on your own in the matter of a few hours versus what used to take somebody several days to do. And so it allows you to really become much more efficient and provide much more content and create much more on-brand advertising than you've ever done before. And so I just hopped in immediately, and fascinatingly so, since I hopped in and some of my clients hopped in, I've been fortunate enough to be invited to things like what we're going to do in July at the International Bowling Expo, to speak to people about how AI can really impact their business. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, it's a great overview. So you mentioned that some of your clients are all in, they're jumping in. Can you share with us a little bit about some of the pain points, right? I love the fact that AI has allowed small businesses like many of our members and people joining us today, they're able to do things that were exclusively to big brands and big agencies prior. But for the small folks, the folks that are your average salt-of-the-earth business folks, what are some of those pain points that you see them having as it relates to using this in their daily routines?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to AI, one of the things that deterred people from working with it when it first came out was this belief that it wasn't sincere. It didn't sound like the voice of somebody who might actually represent your brand. I think that there were mistakes that were made when AI first came out, where it was still learning and it wasn't anywhere near what it is today. And so I've educated a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs and CEOs that if you tried AI in the first 3 or 4 months that it launched and you weren't pleased with it, you need to try again. It's something that you really should be using every single day of your career in one fashion or another to help you become more effective with what you want to do, more efficient with what you want to do. It can take things that you may have used to take you 20, 30, 40 hours to do, and you can do a lot of it now within a handful of hours, even if that. One thing that I do caution people on, though, is there is a belief that when it comes to things like ChatGPT, which is a large language model, it's called an LLM. There are other large language models out there as well, like Claude, and even Bard is a large language model as well, which allows you to speak to it in your own fashion, and then it returns information to you in a language that you can understand as well. But one of the things that I caution people on is that it's not a one and done conversation with AI. You don't hop into something like ChatGPT and say, hey, I would like you to create 5 social media posts for me, and expect the AI platform to do that for you, because what it will deliver back to you is going to be mediocre at best. But what you can do is you can take things like, I had one client where we were creating some content for them, and I created, I think it was a 16 or 17 page document that had all of the information from their website and all of the information about articles that had been published on the group and all of the information I could find about their brand and their voice and how they wanted to be portrayed when it came to their public announcements. And I created a PDF, and I uploaded the PDF into one of the LLM platforms. And I asked the LLM platform to take a look at the document that I just uploaded. I want you to make sure that you understand everything that I've uploaded to you, including understand what the brand is all about, understand the history of the brand, understand the voice of the brand, understand the website that was created for the brand. And after you've understood all of that, please let me know. And so I upload the file. The LLM comes back and says, okay, I've read everything that you've summarized for me. It looks really good. It usually gives you a recap of what it was that you provided. And then you go back to the platform. And you say, okay, now that you know all of that information, I'd like you to act as my social media content creator, or I'd like you to act as my storyboard creator, or I'd like you to act as my logo designer. And I need you to create 5 social media posts that are on brand for the information that I shared for you, that are focused on 2 or 3 goals that you have, and allow the platform to create these pieces for you. And then it will provide them to you. And then you take a moment and you read them and you review them and you make sure they're exactly what you want them to say. And then you take that information and you publish that to a social media channel, or you create a content piece for a radio ad, or you create the voice for a TV spot. You have all these options to do it. So it's this opportunity for businesses to say, you know, I've never been able to afford to hire a social media person for me. I've never been able to hire somebody to create a logo for me or create a flyer or a brochure. Well, now you have the tools with AI where you can do this on your own. You just have to understand how to do it in a way that makes it the most effective for your brand.
Yeah, and that was some amazing what you pointed out, John. I'll make sure I just heard this correctly, is that AI, not unlike a team member, needs to be onboarded, needs to learn the brand, and so it can learn and grow. It just does it exponentially at a rate that is just light years ahead of what you and I can do individually.
Yeah, so I would say you're spot on. I treat the LLM platforms as if they are my most valuable team member. And it might not be required, but I actually communicate to it in a way that I would communicate to somebody if they were on my team. I'm polite, I'm kind. When I was with Outback, they had a belief in what they called clear communication. And I can tell you with an AI platform, you can pop in a question and you might get an answer, which I have seen before. I get an answer that I'm like, well, that's not what I was looking for. So I delete the chat, I start a new one, and I ask the question in a completely different way. And now I get the answer that I'm looking for. It's happened on numerous occasions. So as strange as it sounds, it's just like a team member. And if you're familiar with psychology, which my undergraduate degree is in psychology, there's a process called framing. And framing means presenting it in a way that the person you're sharing that information with is receiving it the way you want them to receive it. And an LLM platform like ChatGPT is no different. If you present it to them in one way, it might give you a completely different answer than if you present it to them in a different way. So you have to be really clear and concise on how you want this platform to work and what you want it to do for you. And you have to understand that there might be a time where you just don't present it to the platform in the correct fashion. So start over and present it in a different way. And you'll be surprised how many times you'll start over and you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was looking for. I just needed to rephrase it.
Yeah. So again, you're going to be joining us in Denver. Excited to have you. You're going to unpack a lot of all this in some detail for fellow small business owners of bowling centers, entertainment centers around the country. Can you give us a little overview of, what we can expect? I mean, without giving it all away, what can attendees plan to take away from your session with us?
No, so here's what I love about this session is it's an interactive session. We're going to have about 45 minutes to an hour we'll learn a little bit about AI. We'll have some laughs. We'll have some fun. I'll walk people through kind of how we got to where we are today. I'll walk them through a couple of examples that are industry specific that I've done prior to the show to show everybody in the room exactly how some of these AI platforms can work. And then we're actually going to have me go to my laptop and we're going to open up 3 or 4 or 5 different AI platforms and we're going to use them together in the session. And so people can see exactly what type of responses can be produced when you ask the AI platforms in the correct fashion to provide answers to you. So I would anticipate that we're probably going to use ChatGPT live during the session where we'll ask it to answer some questions for us based on audience participation. We're probably going to use a couple of graphic design AI platforms where we ask it to create images for us based on whatever it is that we do through the LLM platform. We're probably going to go into a voice platform and kind of find a fun voice. So by the time we're done with the session, we will have created some actual usable content live and in person. So when everybody leaves, they can go, holy cow, that stuff that John just showed me is so easy to use and so user friendly that I can take this back to my business tomorrow and have my team implement it immediately. It's going to be a fun experience. And then we'll all come back together and we'll kind of go through what my expectation is of the future of AI, because we're really just at the infancy. I mean, we're talking about AI as a newborn right now. We've got a lot of growing to do with AI. So there's a lot of fun things coming down the pipeline. And in all honesty, by the time I'm done with my session, I would bet that within 2 or 3 weeks, there's probably going to be another tool or two out there that we're going to want to use as well. And that's kind of my job, is to make sure that I keep everybody updated on all the tools out there that they can use that are the most effective for building a brand and creating a voice.
Awesome. And the speed of change is amazing. Before we let you get away today, we're going to sneak in one more question here. And this is kind of stepping back, kind of talking kind of holistically here at 30,000 feet. You know, you mentioned about AI and how incredible it is. We've heard the rumors that, you know, AI is going to take over the world and eliminate jobs. And, you know, just as a takeaway, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, are we all going to be out of work, working for machines, working with machines? Where do we end up with this?
You know, that's an interesting question, because I hear that every single time I go and I speak. I actually did a presentation in Vancouver, British Columbia, probably about 7 months ago. And as I was coming back across the border, the border agent said, "So what were you doing in Canada?" And I said, "Well, I was giving a presentation on artificial intelligence." And he said, "They're going to take all of our jobs, aren't they?" And I said, "Well, actually, my goal is to get folks educated in what AI can do to help make them more efficient, more valuable for everything that they do, both in their professional lives and in their personal lives." So I think what we're bumping up against is kind of similar to when Google launched, right? Or when the internet came out and Yellow Pages were affected. We're getting into a place where we've always been through as humans on Earth. We've gone through transitions where people have been scared about the future and how this might impact it. You go way back to when the tractor was introduced and people thought, well, the tractor's going to take jobs. Well, it didn't. And you go back to when Google was introduced and people said, well, that's going to take jobs, and it didn't. And I think what we need to do is we need to understand that AI is here. It's not going to go away. So our job is to make sure that we understand it to the best of our ability, and we allow it to make us better at what we do. Because as humans, we adapt. That's what we do with every advancement that we see in humankind. So I think you're going to see opportunities for people to become more effective, to become more efficient. There was a statistic, I believe, last week where they believe that, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be an increase of 50% of startups that are founded by 1 or 2 people, and they only need 3 or 4 folks in their organization in order to become successful. So it's not as if companies are going to be leaving or closing shop or laying people off. It's that folks that have an entrepreneurial spirit are going to be able to really succeed with AI. And as long as you know what tools to use, I have a lot of faith in humanity as a whole that we're going to be able to adapt and make sure that the human element, which is what AI can't provide, that it's still live and it's still there. And yes, we can use AI to help us, but it's not the end all for everything. It's just going to help us get to things a lot more quickly than we've ever been able to before.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking us off the ledge. We know there's a place for all of us, and I think you're spot on with your analogy there. Well, John, pleasure to have you with us. We look forward to you joining us at Bowl Expo. So thank you so much.
You got it. Thanks, Bart. I appreciate it, guys. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, hey, folks, if you're ready to learn more about adapting AI into your marketing efforts, then you're not going to want to miss John's session with us, Adapt or Die with AI, Wednesday, July 3rd in Denver. Make plans to join us. If you're ready to start improving your profitability, you can reach us anytime at education@bpa.com. So as we wrap up another edition of The Profit Break, remember, when your focus is on growing people, people will grow your business. Now, this episode, as well as all our previous episodes, are available 24/7 for you and your team at bowlinuniversity.net. Make sure you join us as we have new episodes every month. Mark your calendar, watch your email, join us on Facebook to hear about all the latest episodes. Until then, I'm Bart Berger, and remember, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. We'll see you next time.